to another episode of Musical Chairs with me, Cheer Up Charlie. And today we have the amazing, the wonderful, somebody from a bit of a different world. Somebody who can lift people up and drop them down on the podium with few words. Baz Bamigboye! Woo, 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 woo!
Hey Charlie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. This is such an honour.
Thank you for doing this. This is really good.
No, it's great. Well, I've been impressed by what you've been doing over the past couple of years, 2 years, 18 months.
Yeah, about 18 months now.
Yeah, you've really set up a movement, I think.
Thank you. So if you're ready, we'll get right into the questions.
Okay.
Do you remember the first show that you saw on the West End growing up? Mine was The Lion King.
The first show I saw in the West End, oh my God. I want to say Jesus Christ Superstar, when it was at the Palace Theatre.
Yeah.
I'm a bit older than you, so I saw a lot of things the first time round. So Jesus Christ Superstar, certainly. But, I lived in Richmond, Surrey, so I used to go to the local theatre, so there's always the pantos on there, from when I was a young age. But most of the musicals I saw when I was very young were like the original sort of screening of The Sound of Music and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and those sort of things. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw Jesus Christ Superstar when it was in the Barbican Theatre, just before it closed.
Oh, that was a good production, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was good. It was very good. Did you ever want to be on the stage, or are you like my mum and dad and love to listen, but that's as far as it goes?
I think I'm in between your parents. I mean, I did want to go on the stage, and I did do sort of gang shows at school, and I was in the Cubs, dib dib dob dob, and so I used to sort of do gang shows, and I did sing at school, but I think my singing teacher at school, Mrs. Tittershaw, I say that carefully, Mrs. Tittershaw, she suggested that maybe singing and acting wasn't something I should go into. But I did play Frank Butler in Annie Get Your Gun. That was my first breakthrough. Anything you can do, I can do better, and there's no business like show business. But I figured I'd better take a different sort of career path, maybe.
Yeah. As we know that theatre is very expensive, and if you're like me, you would want to go on the regular basis. How, as a younger person, did you manage to afford to see shows? As I had a little whisper, it was a rather unique way.
Well, I used to wash up in a Chinese restaurant, and I had two jobs actually. I washed up in a Chinese restaurant, and I was very good at washing up chopsticks. And I also sold newspapers outside my local station in Richmond. And I used to sell newspapers back in the day. On Saturdays, there was a thing called the classified edition. And so I would sell those papers. I made a lot of money. I had to share some with the Evening Standard and Evening News. And I'd keep the profits. And then I'd race up to the West End after selling those papers to catch a show. Nice. So that's what I used to do.
That's really cool. To me, journalism is great for nosy people who can write well. So does that mean you're nosy?
I am incredibly nosy. I want to know everything. I mean, even the things I don't write about, because it helps you inform, who you're writing about and understanding. And so, yeah, I want to know everything. But mainly I like to know who's doing what and where and when. I'd rather have a big exclusive about, Judi Dench returning to the theatre than someone from a TV soap having an amazing affair. I'm not that interested in that side of it. I'm more interested in what people are doing on the stage or on TV or at the films.
Yeah. What on earth made you go into journalism, and where did you do your training or degree?
Well, I told you about selling newspapers, and I used to think, oh God, this is interesting. And you're too young to remember this, but there was a thing called Watergate and President Nixon. There was a big scandal, so that fascinated me when I was younger. And when I was a kid, very young, President Kennedy was assassinated. And I remember saying to my foster mother, who's looking after the children? I always wanted to know who was doing the looking after, where would these kids go? And I was too young, I was about 4, so I didn't understand that, of course, they had loads of servants in the White House to look after these kids. I always wanted to know why. And so I, became a reporter at my school magazine. I worked for local newspapers, but then I did study at Portsmouth College. I did my journalism degree there, and you learn shorthand and proper English and all about how to structure a story and how to behave impeccably and good manners and such. So yeah, that's why I trained on lots of local papers, and that's a great training ground because you learn how to work with people.
So do you always do what people tell you? Because you do so not come across like that. Come on, Baz, I want to know the story about the chimpanzee.
You have done your research, haven't you? Well, that was a long time ago. That was Michael Jackson was in London, and I was tasked with trying to get an interview with him. And I noticed his hotel. I think he was staying at the Mayfair Hotel in London. Yeah. And all the, I walked through the hotel. I sort of had lunch, and that was expensive, trying to get to his room, trying to get to Michael Jackson, and the security was really tight. So I talked to a couple of colleagues, and we just thought, well, why don't we sort of, because he wasn't able to have, what was the name of the monkey he had, the chimpanzee? Bubbles. Thank you. And so he was missing Bubbles because Bubbles hadn't been allowed to travel. So we hired a chimpanzee. And so I had this chimpanzee, and I remember one paper said, Baz Bamigboye and the chimpanzee, which one is which was a little embarrassing.
Chimpanzee's the one on the left.
Yes. I always try to get something like that, yeah. So I always try to get the story. I mean, I like a laugh. I'm serious as well, but I like to have fun at the same time.
Yeah, because didn't one of them report you to the RSPCA?
Yes, they did. They did. It was very tricky, and I think we had the chimpanzee's trainer with us, and so we were able to get away with that. But yeah, it was a tricky couple of days. I thought, oh my God, my career's over.
I can imagine.
But hey, listen, I'm very impressed you tracked that down. Well done.
I'm still waiting for my Blue Peter badge. How incredible was it to win Show Business Reporter of the Year?
Oh, it was. Look, I can't deny it was very nice. I was surprised because I don't think I'd really won anything up until that moment. Yeah, although I wasn't there, I couldn't attend. I was in Los Angeles covering the Oscars, so I couldn't attend. So one of my colleagues got up and made a speech and that, yeah. And in fact, I'm not very good at all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm happy to watch award shows, but I don't really want to be involved in one as a recipient. I kind of, But it was very nice. I was very touched to receive it.
Some people say you're the biggest theatre reporter in the industry. How amazing was it to make the transition from the smaller tabloids to the big paper you report for now?
Well, it was amazing, and I never expected in a million years to do what I'm doing now. I mean, and I should tell you that once upon a time I used to cover crime. I was a crime reporter, and I'm not suggesting that aspects of show business are like covering crime, although there's an attention to detail you have to have. If you're covering a crime story, a murder or a bank robbery, you've got to pay attention, and one pays attention to who's on stage and who's on a film set, and that's so it's the same things of paying attention. And you talked earlier about being nosy. It's covering show business is about being nosy. Who's doing what, putting things together, because no one wants to actually tell you everything. People assume that people run to me to give me stories, and they don't. You have to go after them.
Yeah. Who has been your most favourite person or show to interview to date, and who is on your most wanted list?
Who's been my most favourite? Well, I'm a big fan of Judi Dench. I love Kate Winslet and Nicole Kidman. I like Amber Riley. I broke the story she was going to do Dreamgirls. I'd love to interview the Queen, who wouldn't? I don't know. I mean, I like most people. There are a few people I'm not crazy about, Charlie. But yeah, I like most people. But do you know what I love? I love watching people who, like, you know, when I was younger, I remember seeing Imelda Staunton on stage in a small role. And I love watching people progress. You know, like Miriam Teak Lee, who's in and Julia. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay.
I meant to see it just during lockdown.
And I remember seeing her when she was in On the Town at the Open Air Theatre, Regent's Park, and she was in a sort of a secondary featured role, and I thought she's going to be big. And so I love tracking people through their careers, see how they do.
I'm very passionate about people doing what they love, not what people think they should do. Hashtag Cheer Up Charlie was born just over 12 months ago now, due to my decision to make a stand against bullying and the support of an incredible industry. And I'm now very lucky to be in a position to use my voice and speak to people like you, to give my generation the hope that things will change. But change needs to be learned. How can we help get over this massive negativity around the arts, especially in playground and with the boys?
Yes, no, I noticed very early on your campaign, and I was very impressed because why shouldn't boys love musical theatre and singing and dancing, you know? It's a tricky one. I think, though, that people such as yourself, I think you're a great role model. I think, you know, what you're doing is excellent. I mean, I remember seeing you out of the corner of my eye on social media thinking, okay, this young man is interesting. And so it's people like you, actually, you're the future. And I think if people can galvanize around what you're doing, and it's so important, I don't think you have any idea how important what you're doing is. You know, I think it's extraordinary. And I see that, you know, you get talked about in social media in the States and elsewhere around the world, and that's really good. I think it's to show that, you know, people, I mean, it's funny, you know, sometimes I hear, you know, Liverpool football fans, you know, humming along to the theme from Carousel, not realizing it comes from a great musical. And they think it's, you know, sort of odd to sort of love music and that sort of thing. And I say to them, well, actually, you've been humming songs from a great musical for 20 years. So I think it's all about explaining to people what musicals are and what they mean to people, and just taking the mystique out of it, because everyone loves musicals, but not everyone wants to admit it for whatever reason. I mean, I hear people say, oh, I don't like musicals, they're so boring. And I say, but, you know, I've just been hearing you whistle, you know, one of the greatest show tunes ever, and they don't realize it's all about education, Charlie. You educate them.
Yeah. I hope in the near future to get industry leaders together and put on workshops for children that have never experienced the magic of the arts and are never likely due to financial constraints. Do you think that this is something that could be possible?
Yes, I mean, I remember when I was at school, we used to always be taken to see a show a couple of times a term, you know, up in the West End. I went to school in Richmond and then in Mortlake and Kingston, and we used to go on the coach to see whatever was up in the West End. And I think the local council contributed to that, and I don't know if they had that sort of structure anymore. And I also think some local theatres do have these, what do you call them, educational departments who help. But I think they've just got to make it more accessible, because when I was on the board of a theatre in Northwest London, one of the biggest reasons I got involved was just to get young people to go to the theatre. So it wasn't something strange. It was something that would be part of their lives. The arts are so important, and people, and you know, I'm disappointed somewhat at the government's treatment of the arts during the pandemic. And as someone was pointing out, you know, if you took away the arts, well, what would you be doing? What would you have done? There would have been no TV, no radio, no musicals to listen to. So I think the arts themselves have got to be a bigger kind of cheerleader for themselves as well. But I think it's important to start young. And I do feel that schools who have had their budgets stripped should have provision for young people to get into the theatre, to go to the theatre, to get access to it. I think it's very important.
Like, the arts has held the country together during lockdown.
If it wasn't for the arts, I would have no job during the lockdown. I mean, it's been brilliant. I had to suddenly change how I work. I mean, you know, my family and now my wife and child and dogs suddenly think, oh, here's Baz, he's at home, because I used to live on planes and in hotels. But actually, I've quite enjoyed being at home. But I've had to adapt, and it's all been around entertainment. And if there was no entertainment to cover, I'd be out of a job.
Have you ever suffered at the hands of bullying, either as a child or in your industry?
Oh, I'm a tough guy, and you know, as I said, I used to cover crime, so I've always been able to look after myself. But I remember when I first went to what we call big school, secondary school, and I wasn't so tall and tough. I was a little wee one. And Baz isn't my real name, and so I had a Nigerian name. I still have that Nigerian name. And so people did used to take the mickey out of that name when I was, you know, 11, 12. And that was a little distressing. You know, some of the bigger 16, 17-year-old kids thought there weren't that many people of color in my school. So it was very rare back then. And so I had this weird foreign sounding name. So I quickly sussed out that I didn't want to be called these horrible names. So I don't know how it happened. People used to call me Bazzy Bog and Bazzy Big, things that I won't mention on national social media. So somehow I became Baz, and Baz Bamigboye. So yeah, I mean, yeah, but what happened then was that, you know, I would almost always keep an eye on, as I got older, I would always keep an eye on younger kids because I didn't want them to go through what I went through. There was a form of bullying, but I don't know if it was pernicious and as nasty as it is these days, because of course there was no social media. You know, so I nothing from what, you know, you had to endure. So I take my hat off to you.
If you could give yourself some advice as a child, knowing what you know now as an adult, what would it be?
I think I would have paid more attention to my singing teacher, Mrs. Tittershaw, to have learned how to sing properly, in tone, in tune. I don't know whether I would have been able to pursue a career in the entertainment industry on stage, in front of the camera or whatever, but, you know, it would have been nice to have learned how to sing properly.
So now's for some funny questions. Be prepared, because this is where I get my fun in.
Okay.
I tell my mum off for doing everything at 1,000 miles an hour. What does your wife tell you off for?
How long have we got? My wife is next door. I hope she's not listening, because otherwise she'll come in and explain what she tells me off for. Oh, well, let me just tell you this. This is my wife's study that I'm in. I have one upstairs, and it's called The Tip. Ever since I sold those newspapers, I mean, I love newspapers, magazines. I collect newspapers and magazines. So my study is piles of papers and notebooks, and I'm untidy. I'm untidy in a methodical way, however. I know where everything is. If my desk were to be tidied, I would never find a thing. So I suppose I plead guilty to being a bit untidy. That's what I get told off the most for.
You've worked with so many incredible people and many amazing events. What is the most embarrassing thing that you've seen someone do? And is it worse than the chimp story?
Is it worse than the what story?
The chimp story.
Oh my God. I mean, I have been involved in some tricky things. I do remember having to chase Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt once they were making a movie in Mississippi. And they were doing the Interview with the Vampire a long time ago. And I had to wait with a photographer in the undergrowth. And of course, the undergrowth in the Mississippi South was full of mosquitoes. And I was bitten, and so I was bitten so badly I had to jump out, and suddenly Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and the producer saying, "It's that Baz Bamigboye." So that was a bit embarrassing. And then I had to call my brother, who lives in America, and say, how can I get rid of these mosquito bites, you know? So that was a little embarrassing, but no, I mean, there have been some other things, but I've been involved in some other situations, but they involved a lot of rude goings on. I mean, you know, stars telling me off and stuff, but that's fine. You know, I'm happy for stars to tell me off. That's cool.
Yeah. It's one of my favourite things to ask. What is something that nobody knows about you till today? And the more gross, the better.
Gross. Oh my God. Well, I don't know how gross you want to go, Charlie. But I do remember when we first had, we have Keeshond dogs. And when we first, I think one of the first dogs we had was, I don't know if it was Honey Blossom or Jasmine, and they were puppies and only a few weeks old, and they were downstairs and she kept barking, and I went downstairs to sort of see what was happening, and I didn't put the lights on. And Jasmine had left a little present on the carpet. And I walked in it. And I hadn't realized what it was initially until I traipsed it back upstairs. And my wife said, what's that smell? So I had to, this is 3 a.m, right? So I had to jump in the shower, clean myself, and then go back and mop the carpet. And many choice words were said, Charlie. Many words were said. That's probably one of the most disgusting things, I guess.
Now's for a round of quickfire questions.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you go and eavesdrop on if you were invisible?
Oh my God. Well, in my business, this is illegal, of course. But of course, I would love to eavesdrop on Barbara Broccoli, who is the producer of the James Bond film, because I'm desperate to know who will be the next James Bond. That's what I want to know. And the Queen.
Favourite superhero?
I guess well, I used to like Jimmy Olsen, but he's not a superhero, is he really? So Batman or Superman.
Childhood book?
The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is my favourite.
Oh, that's a good book. Favourite city?
Oh, well, I lived in New York for a while. I met my wife there, actually. So I do love New York City, but it is lovely flying into Heathrow and coming back into London. That is great. So, am I allowed to say London and New York?
Sure.
And I love LA as well. When it's not raining.
All of them.
Yeah, when Los Angeles isn't raining and isn't on fire.
Last song downloaded?
Oh my God, last song downloaded. What was the last song downloaded? Well, actually, I did a story just recently about the musical Carrie, and realized that I didn't have the album on my phone, so I did download that. Barbara Cook and Lindsay Hadley, who played Carrie. And she's going to be doing it at the Theatre Cafe and the Theatre Channel. She's going to be she played Carrie, and she's going to be playing the mother, singing one of the mother's songs in Carrie. So that was the last one.
Haribo or chocolate?
What's Haribo? What is that?
Sweets.
Oh, I see. Chocolate. I'm not supposed to eat chocolate, so I whisper chocolate.
Favourite place to eat?
Favourite place to eat?
Yes.
Oh, what do I like? Well, I used to like going to the Ivy restaurant in the West End, because you see lots of stars there. But I'm equally at home with a local fish and chip. I do like fish and chips.
Harry Potter house?
Oh, what is the one where you're brave? Is it Gryffindor? Gryffindor, yes.
Text or talk?
Oh, talk. Much rather have a conversation.
2 things to take to a deserted island?
Oh my God. Am I allowed to take anything electronic? I mean, you know, am I allowed to take my iPad and a notebook?
Okay.
And the notebook will come with a pen.
Okay.
But I would love the iPad to have Wi-Fi built in. But that might be difficult to find that on a deserted island, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So now is my little challenge I do at the end of every interview for whoever I'm interviewing. And today I've chosen for you a nice hard tongue twister.
Oh my God. How am I going to remember this? Can I write it down as you go?
Write it down? Sure.
Okay. Okay.
A big black bear.
A big... Oh, this could go very wrong, couldn't it? Said too fast. Yes.
Bit a big black bug.
Bit a big black bug.
And the big black bug.
The big black bug.
Bled black blood.
Bled black blood. Okay, a big black bear bit a big black bug, and the big black.
Yep.
Bled black blood. No, I've missed a word, haven't I? Big black
Bug.
Bug. Bled black blood. Okay.
Very good.
A big black bear, a big black bear. Yeah, okay, got it.
And wasn't that another amazing episode of Musical Chairs with Cheer Up Charlie? Oh, thank you so much, Baz. That was a really, really good interview. It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you. Well, you turned the tables on me. It was, you know, not very often that happens. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
No, it's great fun, and congratulations what you do.
Oh, thank you.
Well done.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Have fun.
Bye,
Thank
Baz.
you. Bye-bye, Charlie. Take care.
What another awesome video. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to like and subscribe. And when you subscribe, because I know you will, because I know you all want to make a difference, you hit that notifications button so you know when new videos are coming out. And let's say 3,000 likes for this video. 3,000 likes to make a difference. Come on, guys, we can do this. Woo, woo, woo.